What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting brought to you by Metaview. Sal, what's up, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. What's up with you?
It's another beautiful day here in Salt Lake City. But today is actually an exciting day, Sal, because we are launching a new series called How I AI. When you brought this up, I was like, all right, let's kind of run a couple of these and see how it goes. And it turns out that actually people sharing their screen, I was blown away with what I'm learning on how people are actually using AI in their recruiting workflows today.
Metaview, obviously an AI product within the recruiting space. We have tens of thousands of people using the product, but I see every day like quite a large variance between the sort of the most sophisticated users of AI and the least sophisticated. Now, the more effort you're putting into orchestrating the AI, the more you're getting out of it. It's sort of people need to see it to know, you almost need to see some examples of it to start to think about how you can match that up against your workflow. So I think this is going to be great for people who are looking to future-proof themselves, start to really build up intuition for how to bring AI into the center of your workflow, not just like play with it on the margins.
So Samy Aumar is at Qonto, and we had an amazing conversation about how he is actually using AI. And again, he's showing his screen, going under the hood, showing us how he built his workflows, how much effort went into these things. So what were your takeaways from our conversation with Samy?
AI mandates work. They had an AI mandate sort of maybe about sort of 6 or so months into our partnership with them. And the fact is, when you create an environment in a company where, hey, the expectation is you're working out how to use this to give you leverage, then these are the results that you get. You can play the role of the architect here. Now, obviously, I look at some of these things and I think there's a long tail of workflows out there. And, you can be the architect. You can be almost the designer of these systems because they're so intuitive to work with. So I'd say that'd be my second one.
Okay, so I got two as well. The first one for me is no engineers needed. The story I was telling myself is that it's going to take a week for me to set this thing up. I don't have the time to do it. Maybe there's going to be some technical aspect here that's a little bit overwhelming and causing some anxiety in me. And it turns out none of that is true. One of the ones he showed us, he built in an afternoon, he said. I actually toyed around after and I built one in 15 minutes. Just start and toy around with it. You're already at a much better position than you were before you started. This is not like you don't need to bring in your DevOps team or your internal tools team to come help you do this. You can do this on your own, being completely untechnical like me.
We're just about still at that time where you've got a bit of a free pass to try things, fail and mess up. And so, yeah, I think I totally agree. Obviously just get started.
Yeah. The second one for me is B- outputs beat blank pages. So this stuff isn't perfect yet. People need to understand that going in. I just uploaded it into ChatGPT, had a conversation with my custom GPT on this, got something that was like a 85%-ish sort of a thing. Then I spent 15 minutes putting, the Nolan spin on it, and it was done. I got back to this customer in an hour. That was never the case for any job description I've ever worked on in my career. It may not be perfect, but it stimulates new ideas that you hadn't had before and gets you there faster. So I love the idea of no longer starting with a blank page and starting at you're in the red zone about to throw a touchdown.
Samy is a recruiting operations person, and he is setting this up so that he can actually control the quality of output across his company. So what you don't probably want, actually, if you're one of the people in the, trying to orchestrate recruiting within your company, is just letting 1,000 flowers bloom and everyone has their own interpretation of what a great JD is. You can get you the sort of AI output up to an A and A+, and then you can also say, and guess what? This is now available to everyone in my company, so that now there's no excuse for anyone having a B- output, actually, because I've done this for you.
Watch this, because when you see it with your own eyes, you will begin to believe Sile and I when we tell you the future is here and it's not as crazy hard as you think it is to implement it. So without further ado, here's our episode with Samy from Qonto. Hope you guys enjoy it. This is 10X Recruiting, a podcast from Metaview. Let's get after it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 10X Recruiting. This is a special episode, an AI-focused episode called How I AI in Recruiting, which Sile gave me a great idea on a couple of weeks ago. And so we have Samy Aumar here from Qonto. Samy, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Good. I hope you're all well, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you. So Sile, what's the deal with this idea? Give people the rundown.
Yeah, well, I think it's increasingly becoming the real topic of the day, which is less
hey, how do I experiment with AI, which used to be what people were sort of focused on maybe for the last couple of years. And now it's become much more, how do I make AI central to my workflow? And we know we have some amazing Metaview customers who have AI central to their recruiting workflow, and we just wanted to show and tell how to do it. That said, some of this is going to be new to me too. I'm going to learn a ton about how people are using these things. It is the, I don't want to say it's the Wild West out there, but it's a new frontier. So there should be surprising things that we're all seeing. And I think the best way to learn is to sort of, show and tell. So that's what this is about.
Yeah. So I would describe this as like a practitioner's episode, right? Like if you are actually working in recruiting, this episode is for you. So Samy, you're going to show your screen and run us through how you use AI. So please pop it up and give us the rundown.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the intro. I think I have two distinct use cases that could give some ideas to our listeners and watchers. So I'm going to share my screen up like this. Okay. You should see my screen on a Metaview transcript. So this is not an ad for Metaview. We didn't consult before on this, I promise. But one first thing, of course, that we do, and the first use case we wanted to track was having AI quality transcripts of our interviews. So I'm not going to do a full demo of Metaview, of course, but I'm just showing you that one of the cool features is that you can, of course, copy a summary or download as a PDF the transcript that Metaview gives you. And it's not only about interviewing candidates. We also use it for intake meetings or kickoffs, of course. So in that case, what I would do is once I'm done with my kickoff meetings, I would download, of course, the PDF. And then I would go to the tool that I'm going to show you today, which is called Dust. I think there are more and more of these tools on the market, but Dust are our partners on everything related to AI agents. So what we decided to do at Qonto is to have different champions in different teams and departments create autonomously AI agents for the whole team to use. If I click on people here, I can see that the people team, so the HR team at Qonto, has a lot of them. And of course, talent acquisition included. One that's pretty cool that I wanted to show you, for example, is called Job Ad. So as you can guess, it's our tool to craft the best possible job descriptions when we are launching a job. And of course, for that, you need to provide it with data. So I can just call it as I would call the GPT, let's say. Because actually these agents, of course, you can plug them on either GPT, Claude, or your usual LLMs. It will describe, of course, the type of task it can do for you, and it will ask for more detail. So in this case, I will answer, I want task 1 to craft a job description. So the tool will ask me for a lot of questions, as you will see on, okay, could be what's the role about, who's the manager, what is the context, which is, as you can guess, exactly what you discuss in your kickoff meeting. We've also prompted it so that it asks the right format, of course, of what we put in our Notion pages and on Metaview. So here I can say, okay, I want to upload a file. I want to go here.
Samy, while you're doing this, do you mind if I just ask a question? I think that will help. So who created essentially the responses that this job ad bot provides? Is it you who literally designed this GPT?
Yeah. One thing that was key for us and why we like Dust as a partner for now in terms of AI agents is that they really, so their value proposition is that you can go in the back office, I would say, of the agents and create one yourself simply by prompting. Which means you don't have to be a tech, you don't have to code anything. So in a case like this, indeed, if it's a relatively simple bot, I could do one in like not even an afternoon, to be honest. And sometimes, of course, we had to revamp it a bit, to pimp it a bit after a few feedback. But honestly, any member of a TA team, ops team, whatever the team, could craft one super easily. And so you really have to prompt it literally saying, okay, when you are called by a user, this is what I want you to ask the user. They should provide this in notes format, in PDF format, or whatever. And so it will really help the buttons.
And Samy, I'm just going to do a little bit more explanation, just so again, for people of differing levels can sort of put this in context. So Dust is dust.tt, super legit. awesome AI startup. I think they got funded by, I'm fairly sure, I know Sequoia investors on their board. So I'm fairly sure they're Sequoia funded startup based in France as well, same as you, Samy. And you can think of them as sort of a little bit like if you've ever tried with ChatGPT to go and build your own custom GPT. That's a little bit of a consumer-focused experience. Dust is like that, and I'm sure has a bunch more to it, but very much focused on the B2B use case, so that people like in Samy's position, or if you're a recruiting leader or a rec ops person in a function, and you want to build something specifically with your organization in mind and the ability to distribute it to other people in your organization, and maybe even create expectations that people use these bots in certain instances. Dust is much better at that than like a consumer product like ChatGPT. So that's what, as part of this, obviously, Sammy's going to take you through the rest of the flow and you'll see how it works. But you should probably also just go and check something like that out as well and build up your intuition there.
Exactly. And for us, indeed, the main advantage is that, as you mentioned, if we were to use a GPT, for example, it would mean when I come back to GPT, I would have to reprompt everything. I would have to find a way to give the GPT access to some data that I have maybe on Notion, on Google Calendar, etc. Whereas Dust is thought of as a workspace for companies, let's say. So here, as you see, it asks a lot of questions. I'm going to say, okay, here are my notes from my kickoff meeting in a PDF. I don't want to bother with more.
So this is a great example, right? Of you have this bot who has expectations of I need this information in order to create this generation for you. You haven't had to answer it in exactly the way that it wanted, right? You've just said, here's my Metaview notes. You can figure it out from here.
Exactly. And so it explains, of course, I need to do a comprehensive job ad on the format that was asked from me, etc. And this is a job ad that you can find pretty much on our website. And so it was, the agent was prompted to understand, first of all, the tone of voice that we want in our job description at Qonto to make it really Qonto, if I can say. And also the name of the paragraph, the emojis that are always the same. So it's really crafted a job description that is as we expect it at Qonto. In a matter of seconds, whereas before, of course, I would have to try to craft it based on an older one, could take a few hours, etc. So this is the first example of how we use it for generative, let's say, content. And we do it, as you can imagine, for a lot of content. Could be case studies for candidates, could be job descriptions, could be a lot of stuff like this. Maybe I can go on a second use case.
Just to sort of bring to life for folks,
unless you have questions.
There is a job post that would typically take you. I mean, have you sort of sized up the time savings from going from here's an intake meeting to a job post to what used to happen?
Yeah. So of course it's a bit. It's always a rough estimate, I would say, in those cases, because we were not, tracking everyone to see how much time they took. But from what we see in the team, it's more like basically from the kickoff to having all the material ready and the job ad live on our website, etc. It was taking like 2-3 days because you needed to craft it, have the manager review it. Same for the case study, etc. Whereas now in the same day or in like maximum 24 hours, we can have everything live after a kickoff meeting.
Yeah. So Samy, walk me through what's on the back end of this thing. So how much material did you train the agent on?
Yeah. So what I can do is indeed, if I go back here, I can show you. So this is the main space where, people edit their agents, they create them, etc. If I go here, I can pretty much edit, as I mentioned, myself, the bot. So this is an example of what we call prompting, basically explaining what I want the agent's behavior to be and how I want it to work. You can see it's very human-like, meaning there's no code. It's nothing too complex in here. You just have to be, exactly as with the GPT, super specific on what you want them to do or to ask. So in our case, we said, for example, okay, you are acting as an experienced recruiter. You can either craft a job description respecting Qonto standards, and this is the format, and we give all the details. Or you can have a second task, which is basically to review an existing one, because I can also upload a current job ad and it will tell me, this is not respecting what you want to do at Qonto, this is good, this is missing, whatever. And we also fed it an example of a good job description that we're happy with so that it can base itself on it. We gave it one here. And we also gave, if I go on tools, so you can see that here I can add types of answers or features that the agent can have. You don't want them all for all bots. It depends really on your use case. So it can generate files, data, images, search the web, whatever. So this is where I would input all of that. And there's also knowledge that I can add, meaning I can go here and add a data source, which could be a Google Calendar or Notion, Slack. So you can really add whatever is needed and not too touchy, of course, if you want to add it in your agent.
Yeah, that's and just to your question, Nolan, obviously I don't want to speak on Samy's behalf on this, but I think having just one source of what good looks like, he had a very, very detailed prompt there as well. So I think it probably works out fine. But the other thing I'd say is I would argue you want to like have a lower bar, right? You don't want to, hey, oh shit, I haven't got like 10 amazing examples, therefore I can't build a bot. One example is totally fine, especially if you create the expectation that this is to get you off a blank page. This has to be the final thing. It's like, this is now something that's like at least a B plus, at least. Maybe it's an A plus, but at least it's a B plus. You can edit it from here, which is like so much better than what used to happen, which was go from blank page, from first principles, write one all yourself, which just took, hours and hours.
Yeah, that's the author versus editor discussion we've had, Siadhal. And it's actually that's helpful for me even, because I've actually thought about building my own GPT and have basically been like, oh, I don't want to like go download all my LinkedIn stuff. It's going to take forever. Well, what you're saying is actually, well, just start with one and it's going to come out already better than you expect. And then just make a couple edits and you're already moving fast.
Exactly. I think the blank page thing is very true, both for recruiters and hiring managers, to be honest. It was exactly the same when we asked them to, for example, create a case study for the job they're hiring for. Even if you master the job, it's super hard to do a case study because you have to project on what can I ask this person based on the seniority I want and stuff like this. And so having agents for that is super helpful for them as well, because it gives them something that's like 85, 90% great. And then they just revamp what they want to.
Totally. All right. What's the next use case, Samy?
Yeah. For the second one, I wanted something that was not really generating something, let's say, not content at least, because I think it's funny to try to explore what else could be useful to a TA team. So we have created one called Market Intelligence. For this, we simply plugged it with the main websites that could talk of companies we're interested in hiring from. So it could be Sifted, could be LinkedIn, could be Madines, which is in France, but basically any website that is public or database that you want to search. And so when I call this bot, it will tell me, okay, what do you want to do? Are you hiring for a role? Do you just want market information? And so I can try, let's see what it says. I'm not specifically hiring, but tell me all you know about Metaview and its organization. And so what it does is typically you want, you have a specific competitor you're interested in, you have a company you want to check, but you don't have to just scroll their LinkedIn and try to find articles or whatever. You try with this agent. And so what it does is it browses the few sources I told you, and it will tell you what it found, basically.
So you've limited the sources it's allowed to look at in the back end for this bot, is that right?
So you can, in the specific Dust agents, you can add the tool or the feature that I mentioned, which is search the web. And in that case, it will search whatever. But there's also the possibility to specifically add specific websites if you want them to for sure check them out. So in our case, we for sure added LinkedIn, Sifted, all the main ones for our population, let's say.
Okay.
So that's
just so I'm clear. So what's in this case then? What's the difference between me asking your people intelligence bot this and me asking like ChatGPT with browser use with search to do it?
So what we've done is that, and you will see hopefully when it answers, because I think it's broadening a lot of stuff. What we've done is that we wanted something that was prompted for specifically hiring, meaning we didn't want to have to come back to it as we would on a GPT and to explain the context every time saying, oh, I'm a recruiter, tell me about the top people in this company or whatever. This agent, in this case, is by default basically understand that you're talking in a hiring context and that you're interested in in basically the organization parts or the top people part, executives part, this type of stuff.
It's like if you think of these as like both research tools, if you think of like just asking ChatGPT, which has a research functionality, or asking this researcher is essentially tuned to specifically be like an HR/recruiting researcher. And so when you ask it to do research, it's going to do it with that lens and not any other lens.
Yeah, exactly. I've not prompted it, probably some other teams at Qonto have, but I haven't prompted it, for example, to be a strategy team, agent, which would tell me about the revenue of a company or something. It's more really, to find this type of information.
Interesting. And so, Samy, what about like, LinkedIn Recruiter? So is it only able to use the publicly available LinkedIn, or is it able to like go in through your account? Like, how does that work?
So what we've seen that it's able to do is to check for LinkedIn profiles, meaning, so here I have the answer. But if I was to ask it, I want this person that you mentioned LinkedIn, it can go and retrieve it. So it's able to search probably via Google or something. It's able to search someone's name and find their LinkedIn for you. What it cannot do so far is to do advanced search as you would on LinkedIn Recruiter, meaning filters and everything, which I'm pretty sure is because LinkedIn doesn't open their API for this kind of stuff. So they're quite closed. But for the rest, yeah. And so, as you can see, it detailed all it did. So it looked for a lot of stuff. And it gives basically an overview of, okay, they're London-based, they're an AI technology company, etc. Here is the leadership team with a little bio. So it says, it gives the bio of the key people, let's say. Here are the people that it found most likely on LinkedIn in the sales and marketing team at Metaview, in the product team, in operations. Here's what it found about recent growth and funding. So you can check if it's hallucinating or if it's true. Here is the main product and technology that the company does, which is AI nodes, integrations, nodes, scorecards, etc. Culture and value. So basically, it gave me a exec summary or a rundown of the company. And then, of course, it gives me the sources, meaning the articles that they found on Unleash, on your own website, etc. And here, of course, I could discuss with it saying, I'm interested in the growth team. Can you tell me who is this person? Do they have a chief growth officer? What is their LinkedIn, and so on?
Interesting. Siadhal, how accurate was that?
Well, very, very accurate, but I do think, unfortunately, based on, in some cases, some out-of-date information, but that's
which is what you would expect.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I can confirm I am one of the leaders of the company, and it got that right.
This didn't change.
And it actually, I think it's probably it is actually a good thing to noodle on the accuracy, because it is obviously one of the things that I'm sure this will be the case in the culture at Qonto and using AI, like an understanding that these things aren't 100% correct. Like, you expect to go to certain tools and have 100% correct. You shouldn't expect that with some of these things. Like, it did have some people listed as employees who we may well be on their LinkedIn as like one of the profiles, but they are not actually employees of the company. And this sort of thing. So that's like an interesting thing to, a healthy dose of, I don't want to say skepticism when using these things, but like a healthy dose that you're not completely sort of abdicating responsibility for what you're going to do next with this information, because, this is again, just like 80% now or something.
It's expectation setting, right, Siadhal? Right? Like, you just have to set your expectations appropriately. Like, the other expectation that I was thinking about when Samy was doing it was like how long we just waited. Right. So we waited like something like, 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I'm kind of annoyed right now. But what would I be doing otherwise would be going through like 10 articles, and I'd be down the rabbit hole for probably 15 to 20 minutes, because that's how long it usually takes me.
True. Although I think there's a world where actually for this type of a task, actually, Samy, let's just, so can you gave us one that's like Metaview specific, partly because of this pod. What's the archetypal request? Who would be using this bot in the organization, and what would they be asking?
It would be mainly used, of course, by the talent acquisition team a lot for this bot. Maybe other teams have their own. The typical request would be, I don't know, we are reorganizing a team at Qonto. We are launching a few key hires, head of something, director of something. Okay, can you give me information about the growth organizations in the top European fintech? And then it could ask you, okay, can you give me some details on what you would consider top? I would say Revolut, N26, whatever. And then I would iterate and discuss with the bot to say, okay, tell me if there's a chief growth officer in this company and who are the direct reports. And if I want to check that it's not hallucinating, as you mentioned, okay, where did you find the information? Can you link me to their LinkedIn or the article? And it's pretty good at finding, especially the bigger the company, the more content there is online, it will be pretty good at identifying at least key people.
Yeah, so I think that makes a ton of sense. What I was going to come back to on you, Nolan, was this idea that, okay, you can look at that frustrating 3 to 5 minute wait as like, oh yeah, but I would have taken 3 to 5 hours instead. I think the main difference actually should be, we probably shouldn't be sitting here watch it for 3 to 5 minutes, right? You put together your request. It goes and does its research. And actually, if it takes 3 to 5 hours, that's totally fine because it's parallelized. You can ask it to do 5 things at once. Each takes 5 hours. They're not dependent on each other. You, while in the meantime, are also having like 5 conversations with people or something like this. So actually, it's less to do with the speed, which is another thing I think people have to get. I was listening to a podcast with Sundar from Alphabet earlier today, and he was talking about how latency is really important, but also in some cases, people need to get out of this habit of thinking latency is like the most important thing. For some things, it is getting the answer really quickly. But in other cases, it's like better answer tomorrow on this is totally fine because it's not an urgent thing. It's like quality is more important.
Yeah, this is like so I basically had to rewire my brain to focus on singular tasks versus multitasking. And now what you're telling me, Sile, is actually, no. AI is like, you need to be a great multitasker, right? You got to have the window here and then this thing over here and then this thing going over here. And so actually it enables multitasking to be done much better than before.
Yeah. But I think also maybe the thing I'm saying is, you should also accept there's some like set it and forget it about this. Like the reason that this query took 3 to 5 minutes, and if you scroll up to the reasoning trail, Samy, so the bit where it was, you see this other part of the UI, this sort of grayed out box here. This is like not part of the generation in a way. This is just the AI showing you how it got to where it landed. And that's useful for 2 things. One is just actually you as a user building up your intuition over, okay, this is how this works. Therefore, I should maybe ask questions like this in future. And like prompting is a legitimate skill that people need to understand. And this is useful to help you understand how it's working. And then the second thing it's useful for is you might spot where it went wrong. And like then you can give it much better instructions either next time or like as part of this collaboration. So my point is, all of the time, this 3 to 5 minutes, you can sit there and watch over the shoulder of the AI as it's doing its work and see is it doing it right. Or you can just come back to it in like half an hour's time when you know it's going to be finished. You can see what the output is. If you're happy with it, great. You've like had a nice lunch in the meantime. And if you're not happy with it, you can still see how it landed at this thing, so you can go and correct it.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, this is what we would typically do, to be honest. And then the cool thing is that you can, of course, extract it, share it with your TA team, so that we can centralize as well the info we get.
Awesome, Samy. One of the things I think I know about Qonto was that you folks had an AI mandate quite a long time ago. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you share more, like a little, whatever you can share about the context of that? Feels like over the last month, there's been a few high-profile CEOs of companies who have come out and said, hey, everyone in the company, you need to be using AI. I'm just curious, is that the same type of way it happened at Qonto and just whatever? How did it come through to you? What was the messaging and like why? What was the justification?
Yeah. So I would say to do it super briefly, let's say, we wanted to push for AI and to be more and more AI enabled, at least. This was an initiative that was carried by our co-founders, and so they mandated sort of our CTO, who of course wanted to as well. What we decided was to have champions in different teams that are the ones that will be, in our AI community with a specific Slack channel, sharing knowledge, building these agents on Dust and stuff like this. But not to do a top-down initiative, because for us, if you just tell people management said you have to use AI, they won't get why and they won't do it, honestly. So it was to identify the tech-friendly, let's say, people who could do it. It works pretty well because I would say on a given week, like 80 to 100% of the company uses at least one Dust agent. So all teams honestly use it for their daily jobs. And in terms of hiring and what we expect, so it's interesting because we've started more and more asking candidates in the hiring process what their use of AI is. But I would say it's much more to not have the risk of hiring someone who would be AI advert, let's say. Not that we have something against it, but it's more, okay, if you don't want to use AI, honestly, don't come at Qonto because we use it a ton and we believe it will change a lot of stuff. So it's more, we will never say, oh, it's okay, oh, we don't hire this person because they haven't used extensively AI, because most companies are not there. We know not everyone can be there, but it's more that they should be at least curious, that they understand that it can help, tried maybe a few things on their personal time, even if it's just some GPT prompting. But we really started recently to log it into our feedback scores and our feedback notes, just asking a few questions on how do you use AI, what do you want to do more if you could have more time or more knowledge and stuff like this. So I don't know if in the future we and other companies will be like, okay, it's mandatory. But I think since we're not there yet, we just expect people to be curious, I would say.
As the tools get better, you're definitely going to mandate it, because this is obviously like the best way to get work done. And like Samy, like this is super helpful for me, because the biggest takeaway for me from this segment is it's not that hard to actually like spin it up. Like it didn't take you that long to spin it. You said an afternoon. It probably took a couple hours, right? Like, and that's been the burden in my mind. It's like, oh my God, this is going to take me a week. I really need to like go block out and like go into my log cabin without like any interruptions and go like crank out this GPT. And what you just showed me is like, no, we just took like one JD, dropped it in there, and like everything gets to at least 80 to 90% now. And then it takes me a few minutes and we're done.
Yeah. And the great thing about people like Samy, for us actually as a company building AI tooling, specifically in our case for recruiting, is you also get a ton of inspiration actually for roadmap. So the flow that Samy took you through earlier, with where you uploaded an intake call in order to get a JD, literally last week, we've had this AI job post functionality in Metaview for a while, but now as of Friday last week, as soon as you have an intake call, the number one primary call to action button on an intake call is create a job post off of this. And so you're sort of even just like removing a couple of the steps that Samy showed. You go from call to job post in just a click. And the way we learn this stuff, because hopefully we'll see during the rest of this segment, there's so many, the amazing thing about AI is it's so flexible. That's great. The bad thing about this flexibility is you have like 1,000 flowers blooming, and like companies like us have to figure out, well, which one of these flowers do we really try and turn into like a big, I don't know, a bigger flower or something. And so this is actually one of them that we did, which was, okay, well, let's just go straight from intake call to hit a button, have a job post. But we'll see there's like tons of other opportunities as well.
Exactly. And I think in the future, we could probably imagine something that's like a meta platform, like a global platform, maybe per type of function. And for hiring, it could be indeed you had this kind of call. So as you mentioned, call to action for an intake could be create a job description. If it's an interview, it could be, okay, do you want to send the transcript automatically to the hiring manager associated? So it could be a lot of stuff that we do manually right now, but I'm sure we won't have to in the future.
World's changing fast. Samy, thanks so much for taking us to school today, man.
No worries. Thanks a lot again for an invitation.